Assalamualaikum everybody. This is TSF, and we are back with another review for none other than The Witcher Season 2. And we are joined by Amir and Mubarak. Amir being an avid Witcher fan, and me being the guy whose only introduction to Witcher has been this series. So it's gonna be like a very different take of different views. And Mubarak here also not exactly with the games. I assume you have not played the games, right? Yeah. So
Nope.
both of us here, we haven't ever played the games. So the series is the only thing that we have got going on for us. So yeah, we'll start off with Amir. Amir, what do you think about the season? What are your thoughts? What did you like the most about the season?
Yeah, I don't know where to start. There's a lot that happens in this season. Um,
We can
Look,
start from the
let's start.
beginning.
Let's start from the beginning. We go back to Kaer Morhen, and we get introduced to all the OG Witchers, which from the games they are in the games as well. First things first, we have Vesemir, who I think is amazing. He looks like Vesemir, although I would have preferred if he looked a little bit older and more grizzled. We get a look at Lambert, Eskel, the entire Witcher. I have not seen the rest of these Witchers because I have played Witcher 2 and 3. By that time, it's only whatever is remaining, which we'll get into later because that's spoiler territory. Um, I think that's amazing. The representation at Kaer Morhen, I was hooked on to that. And the overarching story, since I'm not a huge Witcher fan, I have not read the books. The whole plot line revolving around Ciri was very well done, in my opinion. And the way it ties everyone else in is uh, very well balanced and done in a very good way because it's not just Ciri has whatever stuff is happening. She is the main story of Witcher. She is the main thing that happens. But
She's
everybody
like the
else
center
is
point
linked.
of all of this.
Yes, yes, and everybody else's fates and destinies are linked to her and affected by her, and that is very well represented in this entire season. You have Vesemir, who wants to bring back the age of the Witchers because he knows the Witchers are dying. And before season 2, I also took some time to watch the movie, The Witcher,
Animated one.
the animated movie in which they show
Yes.
Vesemir's story.
Yes.
If you watch that, you'll get an insight into what had happened to all the Witchers. There was a siege at Kaer Morhen. The Witchers of the School of the Wolf were almost wiped out,
Almost
and there's
wiped out,
very
yeah.
few
Yes.
of them, and they are still being wiped out because they need mutagen to create new Witchers, which they lost during that siege. So we have Vesemir, who has an angle that he wants to save the Witchers somehow because the Witchers are like his boys. He treats
Family.
them like his own sons. Yeah, that they're family. We have Geralt,
Family.
who is like, sort of Ciri's father by the law of
Yeah.
surprise. We
Yes.
have
I would say, Amir, I would just like to add, he's Ciri's father by surprise. If you think about it, he's like, oh, that's a kid I didn't know that we had. Okay, here we
Nice.
go.
Surprise! You are the father. Yeah, and we also have Yennefer, who has, I don't know how to put it in a few words, but whatever is happening in her life, with her losing her magic
It's
and all of that.
Midlife crisis right there, if there was ever a definition to that.
I can't put it in less words. But here's the thing, that this is what I liked about this entire season, because this is pretty much how I know the Witcher's story as it goes. The story of Ciri and how it ties everyone else in. And there's so many different people with different angles. Everybody is a flawed person. They have their own agendas at hand, but at the same time, it's not like they're bad people. In the games have a lot of choices and multiple endings, so I don't exactly know what's the canon ending, but that right there is Witcher done right for me, is what I'm trying to say.
Amazing.
I'm gonna
Amazing.
give you
Mubarak.
the mic because I can go on talking about this.
No,
But
no, it's
I
fun
want you boys,
because
I want you boys to tell me like whatever I said. What do you think? What are your opinions on this?
Mubarak, whatever, you take it.
Okay. I think that this was a good season overall, but compared to season one, there was a slight dip. The character development was fantastic in this season, this entire season. Very great character development, but story did not feel as solid as it was. Maybe not just the story, but then the overall field experience was not as exciting as the first season. There's little less fighting in this, and stuff like the first from the first season with that beautiful fight scene in the street. The butcher of Blaviken. We don't see that level anymore. He's still a witcher. He's still killing monsters and all that, but just not as frequent as it was back then. Also, I heard from a friend that this takes a massive deviation from the books. I haven't read the books myself. I intend
Yes, it
to someday,
does.
but it takes a massive deviation. So
Hey Asad, can you see this face?
Yeah, I get this is for our viewers that don't know. This is a classic Amir face where he's like, "Yeah, I was right all along,
I
but
smell
nobody
a rat
listens to
coming."
me."
Anyways, Mubarak,
No,
go on.
but I did enjoy this season. Just not as much as the first one. Okay, that's it. That's all I have to say. But I am going to look forward to the third season. Some fans are not, but I am looking forward to the third season. I want to see the development, the bond between Ciri and Geralt just evolve more. Because right now it's going somewhere. You can see they're going to have that father-daughter bond, and me being a father myself, I can understand that. Maybe I should
I
add
would
that to my
actually,
cosplay list. Me and Ulsi.
yeah, yeah, that could work. But carrying off from your
Yeah.
point, I do agree. Like there was, of course, a certain lack of action compared to the first season, where you're just like every episode you kind of have one or two very well choreographed fights going down. But I feel like this is more of a. I'm going to draw an analogy here that this feels more like the transition that God of War 3 and God of War 4 had. Like in God of War 3, of course, you're just so used to all of this violence and all of this carnage and all of this action. Whereas in God of War 4, it's more towards the interpersonal development and how the relationship between two individuals who are linked by destiny, by blood, although it's, in this case, it's not blood, but more destiny. How do
Mm-hmm.
these guys work together? Like eventually you can see at the start there's a certain reluctance with Geralt trying to treat Ciri as a child, and by the end of it you sort of see that transition happen where he actually trusts her, and sort of brings about that. So it's kind of like the similar journey that Kratos and Atreus had, where at the start they were just not on the same page, but at the end they're the most synchronized. It's kind of like the same thing. Another thing that I really found really, really attractive is the narrative direction. Like how not only are you tying everything to Siri, but also that sort of, as an audience, we are able to see, okay, this is just one kid and everybody has an agenda. This is like, one treasure chest and everybody is laying claim like, oh yeah, my father's ill, I have to get this gold. Oh no, this, oh no, that, something of the sort.
Everybody wants a slice of that pizza.
Exactly,
Everybody
exactly. And they're
wants it.
laying claims. And that's the best part is everybody's justified. If you think from their point of
Yeah.
view, everybody's
Mm-hmm.
justified. You have Yennefer, she wants her magic back, which is really justified. Once again, you have Vesemir, like you said, who wants to bring the Witchers back because number one, he's one, and number two, he can see there's more monsters than there are
They
Witchers
are
who can
going
capture them.
extinct. They are going extinct. They are
Exactly.
dying
Yes.
out. Every year, as they say, 2 to 3 Witchers die. And right now, as you
Yes.
see in the series, there's about 20 of them in the beginning.
Yeah, and even then, by the end of it, you can see there's only a handful of numbers remaining. And
Yeah.
Exactly.
through the animated series, we know that being a Witcher is just not easy. People die in that, and it's kind of like cadet college if you think about it. Like, you just go in, few of them come out and everything. So, but I seriously liked how they built that pressure on Siri, and huge props to Freya Allen. Huge props to Freya Allen for portraying that kid as not just like this conflicted damsel in distress, but she's like trying to find a solution herself. But of course, as a kid, she's not sure which one is the right solution, which one is the right way to go. So yeah, that would be my thoughts there. Amir, you mentioned something, by the way, which I want you to elaborate on. You
I
mentioned,
will.
yeah,
Yes, yes,
you
okay.
mentioned particularly you mentioned particularly where you said that this deviation from the
All right.
games and everything.
Here
Do
it
you
comes.
think?
Here it comes. Here comes the rant.
No,
Look,
that's the
here.
thing.
Okay.
From a story standpoint, you said that there are different endings. So there's a narrative. Um, there's a narrative option that you can take. That okay, you can make the narrative go this way or that way since there are many choices to go with. So
Yeah.
do you think that this series will justify that, given the
Let
few
me let
deviations
me
that
let
it
me
has taken?
chime in on that. Here's the thing. The book still has a canonical ending. The game is an RPG, or like all the games are RPGs. They obviously had to fit in the multiple endings because they were dialogue was part of the mechanics. So, if you choose different dialogues, things can end differently. You can make Geralt into a money hungry Witcher, or you can make him into a good Samaritan. It's up to you. The point is that you see, there is a lot of deviation from the books, and people hate that. I particularly do not. But deviation up till a certain point is okay. But when you start radically changing stuff, like very big changes, like AKA, spoiler alert, killing off a very major character, then that is a problem. Yes, obviously, I'm talking about Eskel. If you're watching this review, and I'm assuming you've watched the season, I don't see how you would watch this review without watching the season. But they kill Eskel, my boy. The thing that really I can't wrap my head around is that Eskel is a very significant character. And I spoke to Asad about this, like, what time was it again?
It was
3
2
a.m. in the
2 a.m.
morning. Whatever it was, Asad just pokes the
Yeah,
question, and here it comes. Look,
but Amir, just a question before you go on that. For people like me and Mubarak who don't know what kind of importance Eskel has, can you like summarize how important Eskel was to the series, like in like
let me
100
let me
words?
let me let me put it in
Because we
words.
didn't have
According
him.
to the
We didn't
books,
have him in the animated, right? He was
Yeah, we
still a child
didn't.
in
I
the
don't think
animated.
so.
he was still
He was
in
one.
the
Yeah.
animated. If you really want to know, those four children that run away, and this is my assumption, they reveal one of those kids to be actually Geralt. Maybe
Yes.
the other kids were Eskel. I'm guessing one of them should have been, because one,
Probably.
Eskel and Geralt are very close friends and very old friends. Eskel is one of the oldest Witchers, other than Geralt, who is Vesemir's student as well. Right? Eskel is also Vesemir's student and Geralt's classmate, I guess, let's call him. Okay? Eskel plays a major role in Ciri's training, not Lambert. This is according to the books. And according to the game, at least, Eskel does die, but much later in the story. He dies when, well, spoiler alert, I am going to reveal one more thing which they show in this. The main antagonists of your Witcher series entirely are the Wild Hunt. And we are going to talk about that. I would like us to talk about them a little bit. When the Wild Hunt come in Witcher 3, that is when Eskel dies. And I haven't played the game till that point, I confess. I do not know if you have a choice or you make certain choices that lead to his death, or can you save him. I think there may be some choices in which Lambert either dies. But in Witcher 3, when you go back to Kaer Morhen, I do not know the earlier in that. Witcher 2 does not have Kaer Morhen in it. You only have Eskel and Lambert and Vesemir. There is no Cohen. At least I've heard that name before. I think Cohen dies somewhere. I do not know. So Eskel does have a not a major character like tied to the story, but he is a significant character. They kill him off, and I really like let this get to me. I was like, I want to find out why. So I did some research, and well, the primary reason they gave in an interview for IGN was that we killed off Eskel because we wanted people to feel the emotional shock and realization that Witchers are dying, because Eskel, as they show in the episode, is a very good friend of Geralt. They show some flashback scenes and whatnot. So they did that for that reason. Now, I'm not someone who's just going to pick this one thing and absolutely hate the entire show for it. The show is amazing. The overall story is done very well. And the way that it is happening is very reminiscent of how the story in Witcher happens. Everyone is affected by everything else. And like, it's like everybody has a stake that is happening. And you can really feel that over here. That's a good thing. This was a major deviation from the book, which I personally do not agree with, but it's not something that absolutely destroys the story. I will point that out. It does not mean I hate the series. Okay, please don't do that to me again. Okay.
Like,
So
oh,
yes, there is
generalize that you
deviation.
hate
There
it.
is deviation. There is deviation from what the books say. Although I have not read the books, this is what online people are saying, that who have read the books, that Eskel definitely does not die in the book. I assumed that he might do, so I kind of researched on that. There is that deviation. There were some changes made as well that I did like. For example, they improved or maybe updated the costume of Nilfgaard, the Nilfgaardian soldiers, which is one change which I really like. There are other changes which they made. I do not know if that is all creative liberty or not. I can go on and on about this, but this is the deviation in the book. So if you are someone who is a major book fan, I'm just going to conclude. If you're a major book fan or a game fan, then you might find some deviations from the original story. And it's not like, this is my opinion, it's not like it ruins the experience of what Witcher actually is. Given that you boys are here telling me that you really enjoyed this series, this season, that's great, good for me. I'm happy that you boys did. That's great. Because this is what generally speaking, the feeling of the Witcher story goes. But there are deviations. And if you are an old-time Witcher fan, you can expect these deviations is what you should hear from my mouth. Anyways, well, let's move on. There is a whole story
There's a
about
whole
Ciri happening.
plethora of Ciri
Let's
happening in
come
the
a little bit to the end, because we have been introduced to some new characters as well. And I kind of want to talk about those. And at the end, I want to talk about the big reveal, the big man himself, the White
the
Flame.
the white flame, yeah. But
Yeah.
there's one thing, actually, Mubarak, since you are the person also who pretty much like me has not had any prior Witcher experience. Do you think that they
Mhm.
sort of convey that emotional weight and or the emotional tension of Witcher's dying with Eskel's death or with the deaths that followed in the finale? Do you feel that they sort of convey that sense of tension and all of that?
Even if you haven't seen the animated film, you will feel the tension, because this whole season, Vesemir, like especially when he finds out that Ciri's blood is vital, from that moment onwards, you feel like, oh, really, witches are really dying out. I mean, we know this from the animated movie, but even here, you can feel that he is trying to bring back his family, his clan. He's trying to rebuild. So yeah, there is that emotional weight from Vesemir's side. I feel that in there.
Yeah, and one more thing that really got me, like what really made me relate with Vesemir a lot, like how he's about to inject Ciri with that Witcher mutagen that they had made. I know it's a bit of a far discussion, but Kim Bodnia, the guy who plays Vesemir, you can see the eye acting, like how conflicted he is. Like one point, of course, he knows what goes on when you inject that serum in. It's not like a walk in the garden. It's a very painful process of turning someone into a witcher, and you can see
Yeah.
like vicariously through Geralt, he's also become that sort of a grandfather figure, if you think about it, to Ciri. And of course, he doesn't want to put her through that. So I seriously love that conflict that they had. And I was discussing this with Amir as well. Like, I don't know how Vesemir is in the games or the books, but what I really liked is that he wasn't this stereotypical mentor who had all the answers, who had all figured out, but he was like a man, like a mentor who had a journey going on himself as well. So yeah, I mean, also like coming to the other parties who are there, like the Brotherhood and then Yennefer's side of things, like like you can see, this is what I really liked about The Witcher. Like their politics and everything, it's spot on. Like it kind of
Yeah.
feels like home if you think about it.
Yep.
Also,
The
like yeah, go on, Amir.
No, I was just gonna say the politics and the world that right now we've only got an introduction to the northern kingdoms and their kings. You actually get to see all of them, and I'm kind of a fanboy, so I can totally scream for King. What was his name again? King Vesemir. I keep
King
saying his
Vismir.
name.
Yeah, King Vismir something.
Vesemir and oh great, I forgot the other King Foltest.
Very confusing name. Very confusing name. I mean, the author could have easily changed it, but he's like, no, I really like this
long
name. I'm
long
going to use it
story short
twice.
like long story short, there are a lot of like you go through all the kingdoms in the games like when you play all of them. So yeah, a good introduction to the kings and all the politics happening, them trying to stand together against Nilfgaard. And I believe that they have portrayed that, rivalry amongst the northern kingdoms very well, because that certainly does exist. And the brotherhood, although I do not know much about that from the games, given I haven't read the books either, so I don't know much about the brotherhood and how they, manipulate stuff or whatever. But the entire political landscape of the Witcher world has been portrayed very nicely, in my opinion. That, given the fact that they are also representing the elves very well. The elves, like I said, everybody has a stake. It's not like anyone is purely evil or is like the main antagonist or whatever. The elves, their story is so full of emotion and loss. Um,
They kind of relate with
I,
them. You kind of like feel for them. Like
oh,
yeah,
you.
they are doing the wrong. They're doing the right thing, but the wrong way. But I understand. It's kind of like
I
that same
mean,
way. Like
I mean,
that racial prejudice.
for a guy who sided with the elves in Witcher 2, hush hush, that's the game. You can choose in Witcher 2 if you want to side with the elves or with the humans. And I chose the elves because, man, the humans in this game, the racism, holy shit. It's not like the elves are any good. The elves, oh my god, that scene with the babies, that
Oh
scene with
boy,
the
that was
babies
dark.
was,
That
oh,
was just dark.
that was as dark as Witcher can get. And I was a fanboy crying my eyes out because that was a sad and very happy scene for me.
Like yeah,
That is what the Witcher world is like. It's very dark.
you get what you deserve. But speaking of choices, by the way, there's an interesting
They
point I want to bring
didn't.
up.
Yes, okay,
Hmm?
go on. No, no, go on, go on. You bring up the points, and I'll pick this up again when we get to the white flame.
When we get to the white flame, for sure. There was a point I wanted to bring up with the choices that Yennefer had to make for to get her magic back, and that includes the introduction to the series' main big bad, that is Wolithmere, who is apparently part of the Wild Hunt. I mean, this is what I concluded from the end of it, like Wolithmere joining
Okay,
the
I
Wild
have no
Hunt.
idea who is Volithmir. Is that the name of the actor or
No, no,
the?
no. The witch, basically, the witch who
No, no, no,
sort
no,
of
no, 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 no.
possessed.
She is not. She is not part of the Wild Hunt. The
Yeah,
Oh,
she's
Wild
her
okay.
own
Hunt. The
entity.
Wild Hunt are those horsemen that they keep showing in cutscenes, and at the end, when when they save Ciri from that
From Wolithmere.
evil from the lady of the forest or whatever her
The
damn
Lady
name
of the
was,
Forest, yes.
Yeah.
and you escape into this alternate sphere or alternate reality, they call them spheres. That is where you see the Wild Hunt. And I was
Okay.
a baby screaming because that they are the main antagonists. They are going to attack this world and they're going to bring ruin. And
Hmm.
yeah, they are the main
Right.
antagonists in the Witcher 3 story. I have not been able to end the Witcher 3. It's a long game. I
It's
just
a
couldn't.
long game, definitely. But
But
yeah, my question
but
was actually about Yennefer herself. Like the choices she makes. We do see our iconic trio together, or actually like
Hmm.
quadrio if you count Jaskier as well. We see them all together, and then Jennifer just
Dandelion.
uh,
His name is
Dandelion.
Oh
Dandelion,
my
yeah, I know.
god, why they change? See, this is the kind of
Yeah.
changes that I don't like. It doesn't make sense. Why do this?
Yeah. But yeah,
But anyways, go on.
the kind of like choice that Yennefer makes, and in the end, it sort of costs her Geralt's own trust. So,
Mhm.
I mean, Mubarak, what do you think about it? Like,
It's
was it
it's one of
right or
those
was it wrong?
choices. There's no right answer to that. There's no wrong answer to that either. It's just one of those things. You know, it's not wrong to be selfish when you're trying to be a better, you're trying to fix yourself, you're trying to heal yourself inside, right? But at the same time, it's like, there's that. It's a good choice. Whatever
It's a
she's
good choice.
doing, it's like a good, yeah.
Not
Fair
a
enough.
good
The good
choice,
dilemma
but
of the
an
choice.
but
No,
an
no, no,
understandable, an
a
understandable
good
choice.
dilemma of the choice. That's what I
Yes.
should
Okay.
say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be that
Yeah.
I agree.
Not the good choice, but the dilemma of the choice. That's good.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that
Yeah.
brings us to the ending reveal that Amir
The
really,
ending
really wants to talk.
reveal. One thing. Okay. Two honorable mentions. The general Kahir and Fringilla. Them trying to
Mm.
Oh
play the
yeah.
politics with the
Oh
elves.
man.
That was a game. That was some scheme.
That.
That was some scheme. But that scheme
Mm.
becomes undone because for you non-Witcher fanboys who didn't know this, you finally get a see at the White Flame himself, who is shown as the main antagonist. But I'll be honest with you, now you probably understand that he isn't actually a bad guy. He has his reasons for coming after Ciri. He is
Because
Emperor
Yes.
Emir.
that's his
And
girl.
Emperor
That's
Emir,
his
Emperor
girl.
Emir, Emperor Emir is actually Ciri's real father. The same guy who Geralt saves. Like, according to the books, I read up a little bit about this. His wife drowns while they were on the ship. Ciri escaped from the ship, at least this is what happened in the book, and she went to her grandmother's castle in
Calanthe's
what was
castle in
in
Sintra.
Calanthe. In Calanthe, he survives and he makes it back to Nilfgaard, where it was that he was actually cursed to turn into that hedgehog-looking creature. This is what I
Mm.
know from the story. So now that he's human again, he can reclaim the throne, and he does that from a usurper known as the Usurper, who is mentioned a lot in this
Yeah.
series by Fringilla. And he restores Nilfgaard to its glory and also goes on conquest, conquering the entire south and bringing it all into the fold. This is the story of Ciri's father, according to the lore that we have. And you guys finally figured that out. So he isn't actually a bad guy coming after Ciri because he wants power. He is actually Ciri's father. And
Mhm.
Geralt does come to know this later on, maybe, or maybe he already knows. I'm not sure yet.
We'll only
But
get to know that in season 3, that if that
oh, we
revelation is
will.
going to happen. But for me, for
One
us non-Witcher
one closing
fans,
comment.
yeah,
For you non-Witcher fans, that must have been like,
it was like as soon as
It
the
was,
guy turned, I'm
yes.
like, oh snap! Everything makes sense now.
yes,
Everything makes
yes,
sense.
yes, bring it, bring it. Yep, I like it when non-fanboys get excited over stuff that you like. But here's the thing, I want to give off some closing comments. Holy shit, the guy
Holy
is not
shit,
a
indeed.
doofus, certainly. The way he games Fringilla and Kahir was just, he's the one who fucking kills the elf baby.
Yep.
That was for me was a reveal, and I was like, oh shit, that was you. He knew that the elves would get pissed right off and they are gonna go destroy the northern kingdoms because he knows that the elves see the northern kingdoms as being the ones who benefit from this. So he
Yep.
orchestrates that. It's not Dijkstra or the northern king of Redania, I think they were showing.
Yeah.
Holy
Mhm.
shit. That was just that was a game well played. That was a GG well played. And of course, he catches two schemers as well who basically
Yeah.
killed all his general staff. So that was
Mm.
Kahir 200
Uh,
IQ play, man.
Like,
Sorry,
it's kind of
Emperor
like
Emir.
Emperor Emir. I was just about to say that, but
Yeah.
But man,
Yeah.
wow! Like we can move on to ratings, I guess. Now, Mubarak,
Yes.
Yeah.
you go
Let's
first. What would you
seven and a
rate this
half.
season?
Solid
Seven and
seven
a
and a half. I
Mubarak, you
have
warned
Witcher
me.
1. I have Witcher 1 at 8. Okay. That's the only
Mubarak,
difference right there.
Mubarak, you
That's
warned me.
my
But then again,
reference
I'm
point.
used to it now.
Yeah, Amir, what about you?
What's your score?
Oh, okay. Now I am so confused. Asad, you go first.
Okay. For me, as a non-Witcher fan, like the story and the brilliance of the plot, like the emotional weight that has been communicated, it's a solid 9 out of 10 for me, at least. Because number one, I don't have prior knowledge. Witcher, this series is all what I have. So for me, it's a solid 9 out of 10 for me, at least. Um, Amazing acting, amazing narrative, and brilliant establishment of to the season 3. So yeah. What about you, Amir?
All right. I am also sitting at a 9 out of 10, surprisingly. But not surprisingly, because I deduct that one mark because of these tiny little changes that they made that don't have a sound enough reasoning, at least in my head. We can argue all day about why those changes were necessary, but I believe that some changes, like for example, changing Dandelion's name to Jaskier didn't exactly make sense. There is nothing wrong with the name Dandelion. It's not like it's not a screen friendly name or something was gonna happen. What, did you not get the rights for it? Whatever the, I don't understand that. Secondly, we have this big change with Eskel actually being the one who dies, whereas Eskel is not the one who dies. He dies much later, but you get my point. There are these, the show is amazing and I love it as a Witcher fan, and I'm happy that non-Witcher fans are getting this uh, audience friendly kind of a viewing of Witcher, and you can actually become fanboys now. That's great. But these
Mhm.
little changes, they don't make sense. You could have left those things as they were and you would have still achieved the same effect. So it just doesn't make sense. And that's why I got to deduct this mark, because it's only opening you up to fanboys coming at you on Reddit saying that your show is trash because you made such a change, which, I mean, I'm not one to say that you're trash, but then again, why shoot yourself in the foot? You understand what I mean?
True. No,
So
that's true.
a
That's
9 out
true.
of, so this is it. Yeah, a 9 out of 10. Everything else about the show, amazing. Highly
So
recommend.
that puts it on a cumulative of 8.5 out of 10, which is I think I think
You know what?
fair
Bump me up.
to be.
Bump me up. Okay. Bump me up
How
to an
much?
8.
Oh my God, Mubarak, did I open
We
up
have
No,
this
my
on
heart?
record. We have this on
Yeah.
record now.
Bump me
But
up
with
to an
that,
8.
we'll leave you to your thoughts and your reactions in our comment section. Let us know what you think about it, and let us know what more do you want to see from the Witcher world. This is Amir, Mubarak, and Asad signing off from today. Take care. Love
Be
each
sure
other.
to
Stay
like and
safe.
subscribe. Be
Be
sure to
sure to
like
And
like
and
and
share
subscribe if you haven't already.
and
Yes,
wear
and
your
share.
Witcher medallions.
And go watch the
yes.
trailer for the new Witcher show, which is a prequel set 1200 years in the past with the elves.
Oh yeah, there's that. There's that.
Oh
Definitely.
yes. Oh
Goodbye.
yes. We forgot about that. Oh my
Cut it.
God.
Cut
We'll
this
go
right now.
watch it now.
Stop. Stop it right now.